There's a moment when someone calls you out, questions your character, attacks your reputation, and every instinct in your body screams to defend yourself. You want to explain, justify, prove them wrong, clear your name. But Machiavelli saw this as the exact moment you lose everything, because the second you defend yourself, you admit you're weak enough to need to. And in that split second, you hand them your power on a silver platter. In this video, I'll reveal Machiavelli's 5 counterintuitive rules that flip the script entirely. Rule number 3 will completely shatter how you see conflict forever. I spent months studying how this psychological principle plays out in modern power dynamics, from boardrooms to social media battles. And what I discovered shocked me. What Machiavelli understood 500 years ago about human psychology is now backed by cutting-edge research on social dominance. Here's what's coming. I'll show you why defending yourself is psychological suicide, how silence becomes your deadliest weapon, and the exact tactics that make accusers destroy themselves while you rise. The first rule will make you see every confrontation in your life completely differently. The moment you defend yourself, you admit you're weak enough to need to. This is the brutal truth Machiavelli understood. When someone accuses you and you rush to explain, you're not clearing your name. You're confirming their authority to judge you. When you say, "That's not what I meant," or "You misunderstood me," what are you really saying? You're saying this person has the right to question me. Once you give someone that power, they own the narrative. Here's what happens psychologically. The moment you defend, you shift from subject to object, from someone who acts to someone who reacts, from controlling the frame to being trapped inside their frame. Meeting example. Someone says, "I'm not sure your strategy is thought through." Most people lean forward, explain, justify, get nervous. But the person who understands power, complete stillness. Maybe they lean back, because people aren't listening to words. They're watching who stays calm and who gets rattled. The person who doesn't flinch just told the room, "Your opinion doesn't disturb my peace." Machiavelli knew words aren't meant to clarify truth, but obscure it. When someone attacks, they want you fighting in the fog. Here's where most people fail. They think clarity wins, but control wins everything. When someone calls you arrogant, manipulative, selfish, your instinct is to correct them, but that's where you lose. The real move is inversion. Turn their accusation into a mirror of their weakness. You're arrogant. Strange that confidence makes people uncomfortable. You're manipulative. Only people who can't be influenced say that. You're fake. Everyone says that when they stop getting what they want. You didn't deny anything. You made their accusation their insecurity. Now they're not the prosecutor. They're the patient on the therapy couch. Social media example. You act like you know everything. Average person writes a paragraph about being humble. Power move. Interesting how threatened some people get by certainty. The attacker starts scrambling, explaining, looking for backup, getting defensive about being defensive. You flip the dynamic without breaking a sweat. If this is shifting how you see power, hit like and subscribe. Rule 3 gets dangerously effective. This is Machiavelli's turn of the blade. Don't meet the sword with a shield. Let them fall on their own weapon. Sometimes the coldest move isn't responding. It's vanishing entirely. This is psychological warfare at its most surgical. When someone insults you, attacks you, tries to bait you, you don't reply. You don't respond. You don't acknowledge. But you don't block them either. You let your absence sit like a mirror. Here's what breaks people. They realize you didn't even deem them worthy of a response. They start spinning internal narratives. Most of the time, it destroys their composure completely. Why? Because the average person survives on emotional validation. Even in conflict, if you take that away, they wither. They spiral. They post more. They talk to others. They try to bait another reply. And with every attempt, they look weaker, more obsessed, more unhinged. All while you remain perfectly still. That's when you win. Not because you proved anything, but because they destroyed themselves trying to get a reaction from you. Digital example, someone calls you toxic online. Instead of defending or explaining, you simply disappear from the conversation. No response, no acknowledgement. What happens? They keep posting, they screenshot your silence, they tell their friends how you're ignoring them, they become the obsessed one. Machiavelli understood this principle. The most dangerous opponent isn't the one who attacks loudest, it's the one who never needs to attack at all. Your silence becomes their prison. They're trapped talking to themselves while you move on with your life. But here's where it gets even more devastating. Elite players don't just ignore accusations, they weaponize them. Instead of defending when someone calls you arrogant, cold, selfish, you do something that completely flips the script. You make their accusation a badge of power. You're so arrogant. Confidence upsets the insecure. You don't care about anyone. I don't owe you emotional labor. You think you're better than everyone. No, I just don't think like everyone. These aren't defenses, they're status assertions. They don't say, I'm not guilty. They say, you can't touch me. Here's the psychology. You're reframing their criticism as evidence of your strength, not your weakness. Now they're not exposing your flaws, they're advertising your power. Business scenario. Someone says, he always has these bold ideas in a condescending tone. Instead of explaining how you're actually collaborative, you respond, bold ideas upset cautious minds. This is exactly the realization that transformed Machiavelli's entire approach to power. If this is shifting your perspective, hit like and subscribe because what's coming next is master level. The room shifts. Suddenly, their criticism sounds like jealousy. Your response sounds like wisdom. That's power judo. You used their emotional force and turned it into their public collapse. But here's where it gets truly elite. The final evolution isn't silence. It's becoming someone people fear to attack. Think about the most powerful people you've encountered, not the loudest or most liked, the ones who held silence like a weapon, the ones who made you second-guess yourself just by existing. They never explained themselves. They never corrected the record. They never argued with critics, and yet people respected them more. Why? Because silence in the face of accusation creates myth. It invites interpretation. And the human mind, when left without explanation, fills the void with strength. People assume you must be dangerous. You must know something they don't. You must be so secure that you don't even blink when challenged. That assumption is what makes people follow you. Here's the paradox Machiavelli discovered. The more you explain yourself, the more alone you look. Because no one feels the need to defend someone who's already arguing for themselves. But if you remain calm, unfazed, people start defending you without being asked. That was uncalled for. He didn't deserve that. Why are you coming after someone who didn't even respond? Suddenly they become your shield. And what's better than defending yourself, letting others do it while you remain above the noise? This doesn't happen overnight. You build it like a fortress, stone by stone, by acting with restraint, by choosing stillness over reaction, by never explaining more than you must. When people can't provoke you, they fear you, because you become unpredictable. Not erratic, but unreadable. A mirror that reflects their instability back at them. Here's what Machiavelli buried in his deepest writings, what most people will never understand about true power. Power isn't about being right, it's about being unreachable. The man who defends himself stays on the battlefield. The man who doesn't forces everyone else to fight air. You think being misunderstood is dangerous? Being predictable is far worse. The misunderstood man has mystery. The predictable man gets manipulated. Here's the brutal reality. You don't need a good reputation to win, you need a strong one. The man with a good reputation is expected to be clean, soft, agreeable. The man with a strong reputation, he's not always liked, he's not always trusted, but no one dares move against him casually. That's what happens when you never defend yourself. Your reputation becomes not about what people believe, but what they fear you'll do next. If this just shattered everything you believed about winning conflicts, hit that like button and tell me in the comments. Is this psychological mastery or just cold manipulation? Because what I'm about to reveal next will change how you see power forever. At the start, I promised to show you Machiavelli's trick to flip power instantly when you never defend yourself. Here's the complete system. When you stop defending, you stop validating their authority to judge you. When you stay silent, you force them to fill the void with their own insecurity. When you remain calm, you make their emotion look like weakness. The result? You move from being the accused to being the untouchable. Here's the bonus insight most people miss. Your enemies become your strongest advocates when they can't provoke a reaction, because unprovoked aggression always looks ugly to observers. They start defending you without you asking. That's the ultimate Machiavellian move. You don't fight your battles. You make others fight them for you while you remain above the chaos. Stop defending and start defining. That's how you become untouchable. Have you ever seen this work in real life? Hit subscribe and the bell icon to join others who understand real power psychology.